Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be diving into the Foxcatcher overdrive and boost from Coppersound pedals. So about a month ago, I was really looking for just a different take on the Bluesbreaker circuit. I've been using the Protein from Brown amps for a while and love that pedal, but really wanted to see if there was something maybe more paired with a boost that I could start using. So I happened to just come across this pedal and reached out to the owners. They kind of explained it to me and what all it did, what it was great at, and it really seemed to fit the bill for what I was looking for. So I'll have everything timestamped out in the description so you can jump around if you want to. We'll start kind of with dry tones first and then see how it interacts with wet effects later. The basic layout you can see is volume, tone, nature, and then the drive knob. And it's got an independent JFET boost that can be put either before or after. If we see this toggle right here, we've got kind of the foxtail over on the left. That means that's going to be first in the chain, like I have it set up right now. And then this is actually their gravity bomb boost on the right. So you can switch that to be in front as well to give you a bit more push going into that drive. I'm going to be playing my Gretsch Power Jet with TV Jones pickups in it into a Fractal FM9, just the amps that we're using, no effects there. On the left, it's going to be an AC30 with a tone factor Benson XR IR on that. And on the right, we're going to have a Fender Deluxe with a Prosonic IR as well from Tone Factor. The only other thing we have on is compression from the Ego, but that's just doing a little bit of a lift and kind of gluing things together, so it's not a hugely pronounced effect. Here's what we've got just with the clean tone. So nice and full. The way I like to set my amps is kind of to be a little bit stiffer down low and then have a mid-range that's kind of ready to go and nice and lively. So let's go ahead and dive into the pedal. I'm going to switch it on. This is kind of where I would start with that tone knob up a little bit and the nature knob down. We'll work through each of these knobs and kind of see what they sound like at min, max, and then everything in between. So here's where I'd start. So you're hearing like a lot of really good compression that I'm getting from that. And it's kind of taking my original tone and not really altering it too much, just giving it a different flavor. And that's what I really love about this pedal. A lot of times with Bluesbreakers, you kind of get one thing that pedal does well or a sweet spot that you have to stay in. And I found this really works in a variety of settings. So let's go ahead and bring the tone and nature knob to noon and see where we can work from with that. All right, so now with both of those at noon, this is what we've got. Let's bring that tone knob to minimum to see how dark this pedal can get. So obviously a lot of tone, high end rolled off there. You can still feel that low end punch, which is really cool about this pedal. It allows a lot of that really punchy low mid stuff through. Let's go ahead and roll that tone up to about 9 or 10 o'clock. Cool, so we're starting to hear that open up a little bit. I could see if you've got maybe a really bright telly or a Strat or something with a brighter type pickup that would really work as kind of a tone thickener without having that piercing high end come through. Let's wind that up to about noon or 1 o'clock. So now you really start to hear that pedal opening up. Let's keep going with the tone. Just a quick reference for what our clean is. And let's wind the tone up to maximum. So you can really get a ton of articulation, and it's not kind of that buzzsaw, really harsh high end that you get in some pedals. So I would probably live somewhere between 1 to 2 o'clock on the tone, just given where that nature knob is. But you see a really, really wide range of tones that you can get just off of that one knob. Let's roll that back to just noon, and we'll look at the nature knob next. All right, so given those settings that we're at, let's look at the nature at 12 o'clock. Let's roll that all the way back to the left. All right, so what you're hearing is a decent amount of tone, but the presence on that tone is being rolled back. So if the tone is kind of an overall EQ adjustment, the nature is acting more as that high mid, basically the openness of that treble. So let's roll that into about 9 or 10 o'clock now. So that type of tone is really fun for me. The way I kind of treat this nature knob, because it's not on a lot of pedals. You'll see a presence knob or something like this, but this feels like it just has something a little bit extra that it's doing. So how I treat this is I'll kind of set the high end where I want it with the tone knob, and I'll usually wind up somewhere between noon and maybe 3 o'clock, depending on how much I want that to cut and how present I want it to be. And then I'll treat how I want the amp to feel, how stiff or open I want that to feel with the nature knob. So kind of back around 9 or 10 o'clock like we've got it now, you really almost get that more Fender, that kind of stiffer power section feel. And then when you roll that over maybe 2 or 3 o'clock, like we'll get to in a second, it really starts to open up like a Vox amp. So you can take a really bright guitar like a Telly, and if you've got kind of neutral sounding amps, you can go one way or the other to really dial in what kind of feel you want from your amp. So again, let's look at it in that more Fender setting. And now let's open that nature knob a little bit more. And now you can really start to hear that high end come out. You're going to lose a little bit of that low mid punch, but you're kind of getting that more of that chime. So let's continue to roll that just a little bit more. So now even like with a really thick sounding guitar like this Gretsch, you're starting to get a lot of cut and clarity, again, without it taking your head off with that high end. Let's kind of talk about how this tone and nature knob interact with each other, and then we'll get to the drive and how that interacts as well. So typically I would dial in a little bit more tone, and if I want kind of a stiffer, first stage sounding drive, I'm actually going to bring that nature back. So let's go ahead and open the tone to maybe 2, 3 o'clock, and I'll bring that nature back to maybe 9 or 10. And now let's contrast that with a little bit more open, more voxy tone. So there's a lot more kind of spank to that tone, and you can take, like I said, kind of a darker guitar or a thicker guitar and really open it up and cut through that mix. So let's go back to that more kind of neutral sound. We'll get the nature back to 12 o'clock and just a little bit less tone. All right, so here's drive, not all the way off because that essentially turns the pedal off, or really low, but maybe 8 or 9 o'clock on the drive. So obviously with the drive that low, if you wanted to use it that clean, you would probably need to open up the tone and the nature. So let's see if we can do that. Cool, so that pretty much got us like a clean boost type thing. But since we've already got a really good full frequency boost on this pedal, I usually am going to use that with a little bit more drive. So let's wind that up a little bit more. All right, here's about 10 o'clock on the drive with nature and tone at noon. All right, let's wind it a little bit more. Cool, so you really start to hear how much gain this pedal actually has. Let's go ahead and max that out. Cool, so you can definitely push it a lot. So let's go ahead and do the all knobs at 2 trick. Typically that's a pretty good place to start if you want a really open sound with basically any drive pedal. So again, here's clean. Cool, so if I wanted just like a wide open gain sound, that's almost kind of that perfect, just set it and forget it. You can ride your volume and change like the high end you actually get from the pedal. Oftentimes I won't dial my drive pedals that bright, but I rely on kind of getting that brightness out of the guitar through pick attack. So I'll usually set it like I've got this tone a little bit more open, but I'll ride that nature back almost all the way at 9 or 10 o'clock, which kind of kills a little bit of that presence, but I then have the headroom high-end wise to kind of pick that out of the guitar when I need it. So I get a really mellow sound most of the time, and then can open up just with a little bit of attack. One of my favorite things to do with this pedal is actually to play around with the knobs in a way where they kind of only go in like 9 o'clock, noon, or 3 o'clock. You can get so many different tones. So let me go ahead and do that just with the tone and nature, and we can kind of do, I guess, some more snapshot settings with those two knobs. So here's tone, noon, and nature back at 9 o'clock. Kind of a really good rhythm tone. Let's go ahead and open up the nature to 12 o'clock. Here's the nature at 3. Let's back the nature back to 9 o'clock and open up the tone. So again, that's kind of where I'm leaving this pedal right now. If I want a little bit more openness, I can always just roll that nature up a little bit, but I feel that it still gives me that stiffness and clarity that I want in kind of that first stage, really open sounding drive. So let's go ahead and look at the boost just on its own. Again, here's clean. So really just with the way that I set my amps, kind of allowing a lot of that headroom, this is just giving me a ton of volume boost. And it's kind of boosting everything in a way that allows just more of my guitar to be there. So if I need to cut through for a lead line that might not really need a lot of drive, this just kind of puts me really loud and out there in the mix without kind of adding high end or flubbing out in the low end or anything like that. So let's take that drive setting that I've got now and just hear what that sounds like with a boost after it. Here's just the drive. Perfect. And now let's put the boost in front and see if we get any more push into that drive. All right, let's add a little more high end into that tone. And we're going to switch the boost back to after the drive. And just so you guys get an idea of kind of how hard I'm picking with these, I'll kind of back off my pick attack and you can see how much high end is actually in the tone and then how much I'm getting out of it just through picking a little bit harder. So you can kind of hear it really rounds out and gives me a ton of great sustain if I back off a ton. But you're hearing almost that bark or that bite that comes out when I really dig in and kind of add that pick attack. It's important to not hit your guitar too hard to where you're choking out notes or you're hitting the guitar out of tune, but it can be a really great way to almost control how you cut through the mix, to dial back the treble a little bit on your main sound, and then to bring that out just through the fact that you're getting a little bit more out of the guitar. So you don't have this like really bright sounding clean sound, which might feel good or sound good if you're just kind of picking around and practice or along with the track. But the second that you throw another drive on, or even you boost those same frequencies, you're going to be kind of taking people's heads off. So we want that really neutral sound. And this allows me, this pedal just gives me such a good platform to set that kind of sound up and then just dial it in a little bit more with a little bit more attack. All right, so let's go ahead and take that tone that we've got. I'm going to bring in some wet effects. So this is basically what we're dealing with on the Foxcatcher. I'm going to bring in just the Keeley Halo. So this is going to give us some really nice kind of stereo imaging and wash. You're going to hear a little bit more of an active delay, but the idea is that it kind of disperses around the guitar and gives it space to breathe. So just off of kind of a little bit of a stab so you can hear what the Halo is actually doing. Cool, so let's go to the neck pickup and see if we can still kind of get that chime, but also that size and that sustain. Cool, so you can kind of hear that you definitely get that wash and that really cool sustain from the Foxcatcher. Let's kind of play something similar with just the boost so we can kind of hear what a clean, loud sound would sound like. Cool, so let's see how this does in some more well-known guitar parts or riffs from worship music. cool. So that's the Foxcatcher from Coppersound pedals. I really encourage you guys to check it out. It really is one of the most versatile and unique sounding pedals I've ever played. I know that sounds a little bit cliche, but oftentimes I feel like I'm fighting the pedal to make it do what I want, and this just keeps bringing out sounds that I wouldn't have even chosen to begin with, and yet I kind of dial them in. I'm like, man, I wouldn't have taken it there in the first place, and it's just something that works and a sound I wouldn't have done on my own. So really encourage you guys to check it out. Thanks so much for watching. As always, means a ton to me. We will catch you in the next one.